Hi, welcome back to Get Fit with Candy. Today we're going to learn another primal movement, and that is the hinge movement. Let's see, over the next two videos, I'm going to take you from doing a two-leg hip hinge, which is going to be really useful to lift heavy things off the floor, to slowly progressing you to be able to do a one-leg Romanian deadlift without any assistance. So that is going to really challenge your hip stability and also making sure that you're able to complete the same movement whether you're on two legs or on one leg. Now, a lot of the time, right, when people are lifting heavy things off the floor, they know that, oh, I should be gentle to my spine. So what I'm going to do? Well, I'm going to use my legs. So they naturally think of using the squat movement. You're going to move your hip up and down. However, that is actually a pretty intense exercise, movement pattern for your knee joints. So for people who are not feeling the greatest with their knee joints, I would actually like to teach them how to use another tool in their tool belt. And that would be your hinge. What does a hinge look like? Pretty simple. As the name suggests, your hip is actually like a hinge. You're going to move it backward and then move it forward. The motion of going forward, it's able to generate a lot of force by using your hamstring and your glute to lift some heavy things from the floor. So let's break it down so that we know how to do it correctly. Usually when I begin teaching someone completely new to the movement pattern, we're going to start with a tall kneeling position. With a tall kneeling position, you are going to be on your knees and your feet can relax. What you're going to do is that you are going to push your hip back. As you do so, notice that you're looking down onto the floor. Hip forward, you look in front again. Move your hip back, you look down. Move your hip forward, you look in front of you. There is actually a very important concept that we're covering here, and that is the concept of a neutral spine. With a neutral spine, what happens is that your spine, if you draw a straight line through it, there is actually 3 points of contact. It is contacting my hips, between my shoulder blade, and on my head. This is when your spine is actually at the neutral position, and it's pretty comfortable. When I am hinging, I want to maintain that neutral position, 3 points of contact, my hip, between my shoulder blade, and my head. When I am back up, still 3 points of contact. So the first thing is that we practice able to maintain this neutral spine in a tall kneeling position. Once you're comfortable with this, you can take the dowel away and then try to do the same thing. Hip back, hip forward, hip back, hip forward, maintaining your neutral spine. So that's step one. Once you are comfortable with doing this in a tall kneeling position, we're going to graduate to a standing position. A standing position, to set up, you are going to start with your toes pointing forward, feet hip-width apart. I generally like to cue my clients to open up the chest because as soon as they open up the chest, shoulders are no longer rounded, they're slightly engaging the core. You can also feel that you're also going to unlock your knee joints. As opposed to pushing your knee joint backward, just unlock it so it's nice and comfortable. From this, neutral spine, hip moves back, hip move forward, backward, forward. So that is your body weight hip hinge. So things you really think about is that a very common mistake I notice is that people would start to involve their knee joints. Start to do this. So it's sort of a combination between a squat and a hinge. To making sure that you're doing a pure hip hinge movement, remember, knee joints are not really involved. Your hip doesn't go up and down. Your hip goes backward and forward, backward and forward. So making sure that you're doing the body weight version correctly first. Once you're able to do that, we're able to load it with some weight. So using one single object such as a kettlebell is a really good place to start. So you're going to hold it, just let it hang in front of you, opening up your chest, same setup, your feet pointing forward, hip width apart. From this position, you're going to move your hip back and forward, using your hamstring, using your hips, using your glutes in order to lift the weight up. From the side, this is what it looks like. Notice that the kettlebell is actually staying really, really close in relation to my leg. It's almost between my knees. That's how close it is. Not hanging out here, but because as soon as it hangs out here, I lose my neutral spine and I put a lot of pressure over my spine. So keep it close. Your hip goes back, forward. So that's your kettlebell Romanian deadlift. You can also use two objects such as a pair of dumbbells in order to load your hip hinge Romanian deadlift. You can either hold it on the side of the body, which is a lot easier, or you can hold it in front of you. In either case, what's going to happen is that same setup, toes pointing forward, hip width apart with the feet. Your hip moves back, your hip moves forward, keeping the weight close to you. Whether it is in front or to the side of the body, the weight is still really, really close by. Now, some common things I notice that people tend to do is that, well, they're really focused on the hips, but then they neglect what they're doing with the neck. Your neck is actually an extension of spine. And a lot of the time when you are, say, working out at the gym, you want to check your form, look at the mirror, so you end up doing like this, really arching your neck. That's actually not very comfortable, and also you also lose the neutral spine. So just look down, and standing up, you naturally look in front of you. When you hinge back, you naturally look down. When you hinge forward, you naturally look up. So this week, take the time to practice your two-leg hip hinge Romanian deadlift movement. And the next week, we're going to progress to the next step so that eventually we're able to do a one-leg Romanian deadlift entirely unassisted. Bye.